Grace watches an old video, filled with the joyous moments shared with her family. She edits the last part out, calling it their last family trip, and saves it for June, her daughter, to remember her dad. She then deletes her social media accounts. Her husband James died from a brain tumor and she's helping June cope. They move to Los Angeles for a new beginning. Watching an episode of Unfiction, June is bombarded with messages from her friends. Vina needs the money for some juice and June is the piggy bank for this one. She just has to refill it from her mom, that is FaceTiming this exact moment. Grace and her boyfriend Kevin are going on a trip to Colombia, and wants June to write down things to be on the safe side. Despite being 18, June is treated like a child. Fortunately, Grace also leaves some emergency money that is sent straight to Vina. Kevin startles June from behind and despite just being the new guy to her, he wants to be on good terms, but June couldn't care less. She acts cold towards her mother. As the pair leaves, Grace sends a message to June to clear her voicemail. June is upset that her mother is away on Father's Day. Grace tells her she loves her, but instead of replying, June just leaves a thumbs up. Enough of family problems, it's time to enjoy those emergency funds. Saturday morning, Kevin updates June and notes that Grace is unable to text her. Time to call on the squad. And just as Vina is pulling up, Heather, Grace's friend and June's babysitter, walks in. She's insufferable. After a celebratory night out on a Sunday, Kevin sends another message, but June doesn't pay it much attention. She goes through the emergency money quickly, partying every day until Father's Day, where she goes through Instagram, finding it sad to be alone, so she hosts a party at her place to cope, but even the absurd amounts of alcohol doesn't help and she ultimately breaks down. She watches her father's video and goes to Instagram, cropping out her father and wishing he was still with her. On the 20th, June is supposed to pick up Grace and Kevin from the airport, but still hasn't cleaned up after the party. Vina is unavailable, so she goes to TaskRabbit and hires a housekeeper. Still in her pajamas, June is at the airport to greet her mom returning from Colombia. After a long wait, Grace doesn't show up. June sends numerous voicemails and messages without any reply. Her calls don't go through either. June contacts the hotel staff to check if her mom extended her stay, but faces a language barrier. She uses Google Translate to communicate and learns that her mom's suitcases are still at the hotel, and the staff is clueless about their whereabouts. They mention that security footage, which could provide clues, is only viewable in person and is overwritten every 48 hours. A stark realization sets in. Heather is the first person she contacts, who tells her to file a missing person report. First thing in the morning, June contacts the embassy. Her missing person report came back because of a missing signature. She tries to explain to the embassy's agent Park that they have around 6 hours before the hotel footage is overwritten. But as the US doesn't have jurisdiction in Colombia, that might be tricky. June goes through her messages with mom and looks for a password in old conversations. Finding similarities in her choice of passwords, she tries her own name, but no success. So she puts a signature on the form and sends it again. 4 hours later and with no response, June doubts they will make it in time. Receiving an update from TaskRabbit, she figures to use a Colombian alternative. The only one in her price range is Javier. She FaceTimes him, explaining her predicament and sends Javier the hotel's address. Javier also points out that she can still try Kevin's phone. Following Javier's advice, she looks up Kevin's email as Vina arrives. Digging deeper in Kevin's webpage, Vina calls the web template helpline to recover his password. Starting with the date of birth, mother's maiden name, but they don't have elementary school's name. Googling the place he lived, they 50-50 it, and they're in. Following their last known movements, June discovers that Kevin turned off his location the next day, leaving no trace. Javier informs her that the security footage has been erased but shares a lead. They visited a hardware store. June can trace this visit through Kevin's credit card history. The last purchase points to Getsemani, not a store but an area. June sends Javier the list of stores in Getsemani, along with store code to investigate further. June shares her findings with Heather, who advises her to let the police investigate rather than snooping through Kevin's email. However, June stumbles upon a suspicious photo and notes the email address of the woman involved. This discovery leads Vina to draw parallels with an episode of Unfiction. They explore Kevin's blocked contacts and uncover multiple women who have been deceived by Kevin under various aliases, all demanding their money back. A search of his name reveals Kevin's criminal past as a felon and con man. Agent Park clarifies that Kevin is indeed his real name and the deceptive incidents occurred before his time in prison. Javier continues his investigation. June tracks down the Instagram profile of the woman from the bunny cake photo, discovering her workplace. Her boss reveals she's been missing for 2 weeks. Further examining Kevin's geolocation data, June finds frequent visits to the bunny girl's workplace and another suspicious location, Mountain Springs in Nevada. Upon contacting the place, it turns out to be a re-entry program for ex-offenders, and Kevin was there on a visit. Jim, a member, assures June that Kevin genuinely loves her mom and doubts he went back to his old ways. Javier's investigation leads to the conclusion that Kevin's only purchase was a lock, offering no substantial clues. Disheartened by the lack of progress, Vina departs, and June, feeling let down, hangs up on Javier. Reflecting on her talk with Jim, June delves into how her mom and Kevin first connected, discovering a dating app. Through their exchanged messages, she sees Kevin's determined efforts to win over her mom, leading to many tender exchanges between them. Their conversation reveals that Grace has her own past, and Kevin had been open about his criminal record. Despite this, it's clear that Grace accepted Kevin. Looking for romantic tourist locations, June narrows it down to a love lock bridge. Javier discovers the lock with Kevin's and Grace's initials. Using the eTourist app that Vina previously shared, June locates the bridge's camera. By examining the archive, she stumbles upon a moment capturing Kevin proposing to Grace on that very bridge. June realizes that Kevin was actually in love with her mom. Agent Park calls and relays the news: Kevin and Grace were kidnapped. The only lead they have is that there was a withdrawal from Grace's account. June shares the information with Javier, who is ready to help her anytime. Just as June is ready to call it a night, a detail catches her attention. Recalling Javier's mention of spilled wine, she decides to revisit the Instagram of Bunny Cake. As she sifts through the photos, a pattern emerges. Grace's face is conspicuously absent from all the images. Then, she notices a live photo. She presses play and it's Bunny Cake. This leads to a startling realization: her mom never boarded the plane to begin with. Agent Park organizes a press conference to appeal to the public for any leads on Grace's whereabouts, revealing that she was switched with Bunny Cake during their Uber ride to the airport. Despite extensive ground searches yielding no results, the public has been alerted to the situation. Further investigation reveals that the supposed Uber ride never officially happened. Kevin had an accomplice. The police are now focusing on locating Kevin, believing that finding him will be key to uncovering Grace's location. The individuals involved in the supposed kidnapping are actually students, whom Kevin recruited for a movie project. Upon arresting the bunny girl as she re-entered the US, authorities learned from her that Kevin had persuaded her she was participating in a reality show. She claims she never saw Grace during the ordeal. New developments arise as it's revealed that Grace's true identity is protected by a court-ordered seal. Even Heather, acting as Grace's lawyer, indicates that unlocking these records will take at least a week. June is bewildered and questioning why her mom would keep such a significant secret from her. Grace unexpectedly becomes a suspect in the unfolding mystery. Meanwhile, social media buzzes with elaborate theories, and the news media doesn't leave June alone. June is unable to take it anymore and battles every post about spreading false information. Even Vina says that there are legit questions that even June can't answer, irritating her even more. June Googles Grace's involvement, but finds nothing reassuring. Kevin's email yields no results, until she accidentally stumbles upon an encrypted messenger. Downloading it, Kevin's credentials don't work here, but a quick password reset gets her in. It saves messages for 24 hours and there's a conversation mentioning her. June pretends to be Kevin and gets the mysterious contact number. That instant she's been forcefully logged out. She wants to look up the number, but it turns out to be Heather's. June doesn't know who to turn to with this information. While talking with Javier, she decides to take matters into her own hands and record Heather with her digital watch. Javier thinks it's too dangerous, but she's not giving up on her mom. June heads to Heather's office, activating her watch to record everything. Upon arrival, she finds Heather's door ajar and the office empty. The hard drive is being wiped and numerous photos used for blackmail scattered around. A broken necklace lies on the floor and a nearby closet door is open, where she makes a grim discovery: Heather has been removed. Agent Park tells June she's lucky. The killer removed Heather just before she got there. Heather knew critical information that the killer wanted undisclosed. The weird part is, Kevin is still in Colombia, but Agent Park has leads on him. Meanwhile, through Stealth Viewer, someone is spying on June's activity. Kevin is not the mastermind behind it, he's only a pawn. Kevin begs for help, but the mastermind is done with him. Vina notifies June that the authorities have found Kevin. Through crime livestream she sees him held at gunpoint and suddenly shot. With this, the police have no more leads. Before leaving for Vina's place for safety and closing her laptop, June decides to revisit her conversations with her mom one last time. A mention of a voicemail catches her attention, prompting her to finally listen to them. As June listens to the voicemails, she struggles to hold back her tears, when something catches her attention. Her mom always calls her Junebug, not June. Once again trying to sign into her email, she tries Junebug and she's in. Her geolocation stopped next to the airport and the only contact blocked is someone who found out her new identity a year ago. June searches Kevin's email for a specific address and finds one significant message. She manages to reset his password online and gains access to an array of live feed cameras. One feed instantly grabs her attention. It shows the same room they stayed in during their last family trip. Amid her shocking findings, June receives an urgent call from Jim, who warns her of imminent danger and insists he's come to protect her. He urges June to open the door. Hesitant and considering calling the police, June is taken aback when Jim reveals himself to be James, her father, whom she believed was dead. Overwhelmed with disbelief, June eventually opens the door to him. He tells June that her mother's real name is Sarah and accuses her of malice, alleging that she deceived a judge to have him wrongfully imprisoned in East Ham for 12 years. The mention of East Ham strikes a chord with June. That's the same prison where Kevin served time. Suddenly a call from Vina makes June rush to accept it, but she declines and James drags her out of the house into the trunk. Revisiting the unedited video, after suffering a nosebleed, James instructs June to hide. He then starts berating Grace, who appears visibly frightened of him. James was a controlling, addicted, and abusive husband. Grace had discovered James's drugs in their home and reported him to the police, leading to his imprisonment for 10 years. To protect herself and June, she recorded a conversation in which James threatened her life for turning him in. She sent this evidence to the police and requested identity protection, with Heather serving as her lawyer through the process. This explains why Grace deleted all her social media accounts and moved to Los Angeles, creating a fabricated story about June's father, all in an effort to protect June from the truth. In a harrowing turn of events, James forcefully takes June into a room and ties her up, planning to eliminate Grace, whom he has confined in his shed. As he prepares to shoot, Grace manages to fight back, striking him with a piece of wood and escaping to rescue June, leaving James locked away. Grace frees June, but their relief is short-lived as James quickly recovers and locks them inside the house, grabbing a shovel to start digging outside. In a desperate attempt for help, June tries to use the spyware on her laptop without success. She then cleverly connects her digital watch to James' phone to call Javier. Javier, using clues from June's last Instagram post, discerns their location but is cut off when James confronts them, demanding the watch. In the ensuing struggle, James shoots Grace. As he tries to seize the watch from June, Grace manages to stab James with a shard of glass. Severely wounded but still a threat, James secures the door, trapping them inside. With Grace critically injured, June appeals to her father to call for medical help, using the camera to plead with him. In a final, ironic twist, James attempts to look up a hospital on his laptop but succumbs to his injuries and dies, leaving Grace gravely wounded. June apologizes for all the times she was ignorant towards Grace, when suddenly she recalls leaving her phone next to her laptop. She says, "Hey Siri, call 911. The SWAT team arrives shortly and rescues the trapped individuals. The SWAT team part is the final episode of Unfiction. 1 year later, Grace has survived her gunshot wound, and June is in college. This time June is much more receptive to her mother's comments and even tells her that she loves her. This time she's the one on the receiving end of the thumbs up. The end. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this.